Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Spring is here. It's time to start planning out summer camping, going to Granny Camp, maybe having some really fun outdoor activities. It's also a great idea to figure out how you're going to cook if something happens and your electricity or your stove stops working. What are you going to do? We keep hearing all this stuff about maybe they're going to attack the grid, maybe we're going to have an EMP, and we don't know. But we do know that it's important to learn how to take care of ourselves and how to enjoy our time in the out of doors. So don't think of learning to cook outdoors and preparing for off-grid cooking as an emergency hardship. Think of it as an enjoyable outdoor fun activity and a challenge. It's all how you look at it. It's the same activity whether you're doing it out of a joy or out of dread. But how you put your spin on it is how you're going to enjoy and prepare for that time. The first thing you want to do, even if you're just going to your backyard or if you have a camping stove, you want to make sure that you have the fuel for it. Propane is in short supply, so it's a great idea to have an extra tank on hand. You can still find an extra tank. Maybe you can't find a brand new one. You can still go to one of those cages at the store where you can buy one that's already filled up. It's not the most ideal or economical way to do it. If it's the only one you can find, to me, it's worth a few extra dollars to have some extra propane on hand. If you've been using your propane, make sure you get your tanks filled up. You can take them to a gas station that has those big white propane tanks. I think it's nearly $5 a gallon now to get your propane tank filled up, and it used to be about $2.99, $3.50. It's really shooting up. So propane is one of those things that if you count on using it, stock up before it isn't available anymore. I use an inline propane tank gauge so that I can tell how much fuel is left in my tank. These work really well. You attach them onto the hose between your tank and your grill, and it can tell you how much fuel is left in your tank. Not all propane equipment will have a gauge to tell you how much is still in your tank, so if you are grilling a great big steak, you don't want to run out of fuel halfway through it. And if you use your propane for other appliances or apparatuses, it's also a great idea to have extra and to have some kind of a gauge so that you know how much fuel you have left. If you have propane or butane stoves or lanterns, heaters, make sure that you have the canisters to go with it. They've been harder to find and they're becoming very expensive, so keep looking around, adding to your stockpile in case you are dependent on doing your cooking on your little camp stove or heating your home with your, say, buddy heater. If you use any of the Coleman type lanterns or cooking stoves, pick up an extra gallon of the fuel so that you'll have it. It can last for a long time. You can get many uses out of a gallon, and that's not the kind of thing you want to run out in really emergency situations. If you're relying on your lanterns or your cook stove to be able to provide light in your cabin, your tent, wherever you are, or cook with your portable stove, have the fuel to make that possible. Invest in a few hand tools so that you can dig a hole for a campfire or a latrine. You can split up some firewood or dig out some rocks out of the spot where you want to pitch your tent or build that fire pit. There's all kinds of reasons to have hand tools if you're heading into the out of doors. Only you know what your circumstances are and if you would require some very heavy-duty big tools. Take an inventory of the kind of tools that are at the store. Think about the lifestyle that you lead or the tasks that you think you might need to do in an emergency and get a few of those. I made a video about some tools that I have out at my Granny Camp, which is my Alaska off-grid cabin. They are nice tools to have, and you might want to look at that video to see prepper or a marauder. Think about some cooking tools that you might want to use over a campfire, over a charcoal grill, or even over a fire pit. You can find grill baskets, shish kebab skewers, or even some of the telescopic forks if you want to cook a hot dog. They go way out, great big long. You can put a hot dog, you can put a marshmallow. Some people even take the refrigerated bread dough and spiral it around and hold that over the fire and make their own biscuits. If you're going to cook over a fire, you always want to make sure that you have foil so that you can wrap up your food and place it right into the coals. Be on the lookout for portable grab-and-go type grills. I found this one a while ago at a yard sale. You can see on the box it shows you all of the components to set up a little portable grill. It folds up nice and compactly. It holds all of the parts right inside, and I keep the directions in the box simply because I haven't used it yet and I want to make sure how to set it up if I need to. Another fuel to add to your prepping supplies is charcoal. I found this bag, and it's just like the bag. It's a barbecue bag. You can put the whole bag into, say, a fire pit or a barbecue grill, or maybe one of those grills that comes at a campground that's already installed. You can place this bag in there and light it, and then it's ready to go. You can make your fire right with the bag. Then you don't need all of the other components. Whatever kind of charcoal you want, make sure you have plenty, because it's a handy way to cook outdoors in an emergency or just for an enjoyable evening. But it does require a lot of charcoal, and it does take longer than just lighting up your camping stove or your kitchen stove. I don't like to use lighter fluid. I don't like to add chemicals into my flames that then are producing chemicals into my food. So I made a charcoal lighter out of a number 10 can. I'll put a link to that video so that you can see how you can take a simple number 10 can, punch a few holes in it, and you can use it to light your charcoal. You can buy a charcoal lighter chimney in the store, but they're quite expensive, and why go to that expense if you could make one out of an empty number 10 can? Charcoal lasts the longest if you store it in an airtight container. What's best is if you get like a garbage can type, a metal garbage can, and store it in that. But if you don't have one, or they're hard to come by, or they're just too expensive right now, you can always get a 5-gallon bucket with a tight-fitting lid and store your charcoal in the bucket. Then store it with some things like newspapers. Add in a few ways to light it so that you have a grab-and-go way to start a fire and cook an actual meal if you needed to. In a real emergency situation, it might not be that hard to find a spot that would be appropriate to light that charcoal and get that fire going. Anytime you're lighting a fire outside, make sure you have a bucket of water handy. Have it already filled up. Don't just have the bucket, have the water in it so that if something gets out of control, you can fight that fire, put that out, get those flames knocked down if you need to. You also want to make sure if you start a campfire outside that you wet it down and you stir it until it's completely out. Don't let an emergency turn into a catastrophe because you started a forest fire. Even if you're not going camping, there are all kinds of ways to make emergency fire starters. I've made all kinds of videos on all types of things that you can make into fire starters or that you can purchase. For example, I picked up this Quick Survive fire starter at the Dollar Tree. Dryer lint. Cotton balls rubbed with petroleum jelly or even chapstick. Cotton rounds dipped into candle wax. Birch bark. If you're out in the woods and you see birch trees, they're the ones that the bark is peeling, and you can pick off some of the loose things. Don't ever harm a tree picking off the bark that isn't loose. But some of it is available. It's like nature provided a little bit for you. So you can harvest a little bit of that without harming the tree, and then you'll have some really nice emergency fire starters. You can put pine cones or wood shavings into an empty paper muffin cup and pour hot wax over it, and you have a very nice fire starter bundle. Cotton rounds rubbed with petroleum jelly. Alcohol prep pads. And don't forget hand sanitizer. It works great for starting campfires too. You may not have thought about waxed paper, but it's paper and it's waxed, so you can crumble it up and use it to start a fire also. When you're done reading the newspaper, add it to your fire starter kit. I always include a piece of aluminum foil in my fire starting kit. You can put it down at the bottom of your fire where you're going to start it. And then even if the ground is wet, you have a dry place to start your fire. Plus, if you use something like cotton dipped in petroleum jelly, as the petroleum jelly melts, it will be caught in the foil rather than sink into the ground, and will continue to help you get your fire going even in very sad, wet, cold weather. Have a selection of lighters, matches, and even tools that can help you start fires if you don't have matches or lighters. Think about just going in the trash. Get out something that is a Mylar type bag with a zip top lid. Add it full of stuff that you want to start a fire. Zip it closed and you have a waterproof fire starting kit. So whether you're like me and you're heading out to Granny Camp, my Alaska off-grid cabin, you're going camping, or in a grid down or EMP situation, some kind of a disaster when you need to cook for yourself. If you think about it ahead of time, gather those supplies together and have them ready, then you're prepared, not scared. And that's what prepping is all about. We're ready to face any challenge the best we can. And we're not going to panic because we have some ideas of what to do, and we can use our creativity to make the best of every situation. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.